What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's blog and theboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are enjoying the start to your weekend. The Dallas Cowboys won on Thursday Night Football. We've got great college football on Saturday. We've got great NFL football on Sunday. And because the Cowboys already have their game, and most importantly, their win in the bank, we can hang out with Scott Hansen all day on Sunday, the red zone. And then we get an amazing Sunday night game between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. That's not even to mention the Saturday night game we have between Georgia and Alabama. Football, oh my gosh, it's incredible. I love it. You love it. That's why we're here. If you are here and you haven't subscribed, wow, that hurts my feelings, but please consider subscribing. We are on the way to 30,000 subs. We want to get there before the season is over. Very, very, very close to 23,000. In fact, I think I might need to update this graphic. I'll look after I record this video. Please make sure to check out blogontheboys.com. I've got tons of articles that have come out since the Cowboys beat the Giants. My colleagues, our fellow staffers at Blog of the Boys, we have a ton of action for you that will continue through the weekend into next week. We don't sleep 24/7, 365. Although 366 in this leap year, the joke I've made many different times. You can hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa. I mentioned this the other day. I had a very important meeting with the Threads people, the sports Threads people, more specifically, the NFL Threads people. Threads is going to be a place to be, people, if you're not there. So make sure you're on Threads. Follow me there and everybody else, everywhere else, I should say, at RJ Ochoa, RJ.Ochoa on TikTok, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com is my email if you want to do that. Apologies because this is our day after thoughts video, day after thoughts discussion. This is something I do every week. Obviously, let the Cowboys game kind of sit and marinate for a day and then tell you what I think, tell you if something changed, if we have even more conviction in something. For what it's worth, I am filming this. It is Friday, September 27th at 4:40 p.m. Central Standard Time on the dot. I am filming it on the day after, but we've had a lot of things come out in the channel, on the channel. So I wanted to make sure you had some things spread out across the course of your weekend. If you want to go back and check things out, on Friday, we did drop 2 videos in addition to the post-game show that dropped late Thursday night, obviously. Early Friday dropped my live stream from the BR app earlier in the day on Friday. I'll be dropping all those here on the channel now as well, so go check that out. And shout out to my friends at Smirnoff because they hooked me up with an interview with Golden Tate. It was a lot of fun. You can go check that out. I know I promised a second interview. We had a scheduling snafu, and I think that we're going to have 2 things next week that you're going to really enjoy. But today is Saturday in terms of the release day of this video, and it is Friday for me. It is the day after the Dallas Cowboys beat the New York Giants, which means it's time for my day after thoughts. And as mentioned, the spirit of this idea is just applying some context, just letting time pass, because sometimes our emotions fade, sometimes we calm down, sometimes we calm up, whatever the case may be. So here we are. Let's get into it. Number 1 for me, Mazi Smith's arrival is the best thing that happened. If you look at everything that happened on Thursday night, I almost said Sunday night, but if you look at everything that happened on Thursday night between the Cowboys and the Giants, and obviously we care exclusively about what happened to the Cowboys, whether it's positive or negative, the most important thing is that Mazi Smith took a step. Now, look, I know it's hard to be excited about the defense right now in the aftermath of the Micah Parsons news and the Marcus Lawrence news that looks like they're both going to miss time. Obviously, we know Tank is going to miss time. We'll see about Micah, but if Mazi Smith can become a guy, if Mazi Smith can really take that step, if he is really finding himself in the NFL, that helps solve a lot of problems. It doesn't individually solve a lot of problems, but to be very clear here, we're on a boat and we're in the ocean and we're taking on water in a lot of different ways. And so if Mazi Smith is a guy, one of the primary places where the leak is coming from, we have shored up and we can now devote attention and resources elsewhere. And that applies not just to this season, but to seasons beyond. Obviously, I know people have thoughts about, oh, it's time to tank and all this sort of stuff. I'm not ready to go down that road. But Mazi Smith was amazing. Need I remind you, and I wrote this in several different places and obviously had it in several different social posts. The New York Giants had 26 yards rushing. 26 yards rushing. 26 yards rushing, which in and of itself is an amazing thing. They had 26 yards rushing on 24 attempts. That is almost impossible. Shout out to my friends at StatHead and Pro Football Reference because I looked it up. It was only the first time in forever. It was the first time since 2013, to be specific, that a team had no more than 26 rushing yards with at least 24 attempts. That is crazy that we saw this from the New York Giants. Shout out. That is a Mozzie Smith stat. The fact that he took a leap is a very, 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 very important thing. Day after thought number one. Day after thought number two. I actually had this as my day after thought number two to a different degree after the Cowboys got their doors blown off and then made it look a little bit less ugly against the Baltimore Ravens last week. The line here written is Jalen Tolbert and Hunter Lipke are becoming important pieces. And that's true for the second week in a row. Now, I know that it was kind of some empty calories against Baltimore and that weird fourth quarter flurry comeback, whatever you want to call it. They were legitimate parts of the offense on Thursday night against the Giants. Now, CeeDee Lamb was amazing. CeeDee Lamb had a 55-yard touchdown, which, by the way, the longest touchdown of CeeDee Lamb's career came in the penultimate week of the regular season last year against the Lions. It was 92 yards. The second longest touchdown of CeeDee Lamb's career came in week 2 of this season, just 2 weeks ago against the New Orleans Saints. It was 65 yards. The third longest touchdown of CeeDee Lamb's career came on Thursday night. It was 55 yards. We have literally seen the second and third longest touchdowns of CeeDee Lamb's career over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever you want to call it. 3 games, 3 great game cycles. You get my point. That is proof that the Cowboys offense is really struggling. And what do I mean by that? It means they're having to score from deep downtown. The Cowboys are not able to put together these long, sustainable drives. They're having to score from 55 and 65 yards out. And if they can get development like we're seeing from Jalen Tolbert, from Hunter Lipke, I don't think it's going to be there from Brandon Cooks. I know a lot of people are saying this, but at this point in time, I don't know that Jalen Tolbert isn't wide receiver 2 on this team. And I don't know that Hunter Lipke isn't the most explosive player who lives and operates out of the Dallas Cowboys backfield. I say that with no disrespect to Rico Dowdle or to Zeke Elliott. But did you know that there were 3 plays, I should say, from the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night in which a ball carrier being somebody who was given the ball in the backfield. This is on a handoff, not on a pass. There were 3 instances in which a ball carrier reached 15 miles an hour. 3. 2 of them belong to CeeDee Lamb because Mike McCarthy's obsessed with these weird end arounds for whatever reason. The other one was Hunter Lipke. He was the only running back, if you want to classify him that, the only person who had the ball put in their belly, put in their gut, who reached 15 miles an hour. Rico Dowdle didn't do it. Zeke Elliott didn't do it. Obviously, Deuce Vaughn didn't do it. So, again, to call Hunter Lipke the most explosive player out of the Dallas Cowboys backfield sounds like I'm saying something tongue-in-cheek, but I'm actually saying something that is literally true and founded in data and evidence. So the fact that we're seeing these developments is really important. The fact that Hunter Lipke was trusted on a critical 4th and short on the Cowboys side of the field and that he got it is a really big testament to the trust that he's developed in this coaching staff. And remember, that sequence kind of matters. You get the Hunter Lipke 4th down conversion. And again, I have to underline that several times. 4th and short from the Cowboys side of the 50-yard line. That's bold, right? That's a bold move to make. I know that in today's day and age, it's kind of normal and it's kind of commonplace, but it doesn't change how bold it is. So Hunter Lipke picks that up, and the very next play, CeeDee Lamb goes 55 yards, as mentioned, for the touchdown, the 3rd longest of his career. So I know that was mostly about Hunter Lipke, but Jalen Tolbert is coming along and is. We've heard, obviously, and Dak had the comment at training camp about how the guy he has the highest level of chemistry with usually has a good year. We are starting to see that kind of, catching up to Brandon Cooks from Jalen Tolbert and potentially surpassing him. Brandon Cooks was responsible for most of the incompletions that Dak Prescott had on the night. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say that Brandon Cooks is washed or he's lost it or whatever the case may be, but I think if I told you right now, if I gave you Jalen Tolbert or Brandon Cooks to have more receptions from this point forward for the Dallas Cowboys across the rest of the season, I think 100 out of 100 people would take Jalen Tolbert. I think it's that obvious at this point in time. But moving on to day after thought number 3. This is the most depressing. And it's, positive vibes, especially in the aftermath of the Parsons and Lawrence injuries, but it should not have been that hard to win, but we will be grateful. Now, I always have said a win is a win, but my good friend Rob Stats Guerrera is the first person I ever heard say a win is a win is a win is a win. I don't know if that's a common expression or if that was just stats being stats, but I'm going to say it here. A win is a win is a win is a win. The Dallas Cowboys won. That means that the Dallas Cowboys have a win in their column. That means the Dallas Cowboys get to add to their win column. They don't add to their loss column. This is a good thing. This is objectively a good thing. We all understand this, all right? So we can understand the good that comes from this, but recognize that it should not have been this difficult. Think about the things that we've talked about. And I mentioned this to a degree in the postgame show. Dak Prescott was insane. All right. I know it wasn't a gaudy statistical night, but he was 13 of 14 for 143 yards with his 2 passing touchdowns on throws under 2.5 seconds. That is some insanely efficient work from your QB1. You got the greatest performance that Mossy Smith has ever offered you as a professional. Terrence Steele helped shut down Brian Burns. You limited the New York Giants to 26 rushing yards on 24 attempts. You got contributions from Jalen Tolbert and Hunter Lipke. All of these things are very good, right? We're listing all of these positive things, and yet you barely won by 5 points, and it took all of this heroism for you to win. It should not take that against the New York Giants. This didn't happen because the Giants have gotten better and they stood tall and they made this a fair fight. They didn't score a single touchdown. I mean, the Cowboys came close to losing. I don't know that it's fair to categorize it by saying that they almost lost, but they came close to losing against a team that did not score a touchdown. The only team who's known to do that is the New York Giants. They lost to the Washington Commanders a couple of weeks ago when Washington didn't even score a touchdown. So that's the company that you're keeping. Now you got the win, and you can take away the important lessons without the consequences that New York had to deal with 2 weeks ago. But it should not be this hard. You should not be reliant upon CeeDee Lamb scoring from 65 and 55 yards out. You have to fix this. All right. Now, we can sit here and we can bemoan and we can be completely correct in that the Dallas Cowboys should have done this, that, and the other throughout the course of free agency in the offseason. But that is over, right? It's as big of a mistake as it was. The milk is spilled. I'm upset that it's spilled. You're upset that it's spilled, but we can hopefully learn to not spill the milk in the future. And moving on from it doesn't mean that we're excusing the milk being spilled, but the milk is spilled on the table. We cannot be mad about it being spilled. We have other problems because the milk is spilled, the water is spilled, the juice is spilled. You have to figure out a way. It's cleanup on aisle week 5 for the Dallas Cowboys. You have to figure this out now, especially with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Micah, we don't know, but if they're both going to miss time, we know that obviously Tank Lawrence is going to miss time. You're going to have to figure out a way. You got 2 games to go until the bye week, and at that point, you can kind of take a bigger breath than you get to take right now. You admittedly get a little one because of the mini bye. If you can get there at 4-2, obviously that's ideal. If you can get there at 3-3, hey, we'll kind of take that. Our expectations have lowered that much at this point in time, but you have to find a way to be better, to be more consistent, to move and to groove. You cannot be reliant upon these things because on Thursday night, that performance would have lost to most teams in the NFL. Thankfully, it was the New York Giants on the other side and not a more equipped, well-run franchise. I wrote about this same subject in case you're curious, in case you want to read it at bloggingtheboys.com. Make sure to check that out. That article came out on Friday night. So before this video, you can go there right now. Make sure to read my work and the work of everybody else, obviously. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe right here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. On our way. I'm believing it. I'm professing it. I'm manifesting it. We're going to hit 30,000 subscribers before the season is over. What will the Cowboys record be at that point in time? I don't know. I really have no idea, and it's very difficult to tell right now. But what I do know is you are awesome. So thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for your time. It was a very busy, frenetic, frantic, chaotic, demoralizing, somewhat uplifting, ultimately very weird sort of week for the Dallas Cowboys. But our prize is a weekend full of football action that we can enjoy completely and totally stress-free. So I hope that that is the case for you. I hope you eat something delicious. I hope you win your fantasy leagues. I hope you win your bets. I hope everything that happens for you is wonderful and amazing because that is exactly what you deserve. My name is RJ Ochoa, and it is my job to make sure that you have the very best Dallas Cowboys content that you can. I take that very seriously, and I promise to take it even more seriously tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I'm going to be like Jason Garrett and get 1% better each and every single day. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. We'll see you next time.